Good evening again. This is James from Section of Soul. Hope everyone's having a good night. This subject of this video is the fact that, or it's about the American downing of another Iranian-made drone that was being used. It was armed and it was in southwest Syria. Um, we are getting dangerously close, folks, to World War III. It's not hyperbole. It's not going to, I don't think it'll take the shape of the other world wars, and we don't even have to call it a world war. We are on the precipice of an extremely scary conflict. The fact that we are continually now shooting down drones, that we shot down a jet on Sunday, it's terrifying because whether we need to do it or not, I'm not, especially for the military, just purely about from the military standpoint, I understand why we're doing these things, and I understand that this would have been a lot easier to avoid if we had handled the situation years ago a lot better way, such as getting rid of Assad, which we should have done, which would have been messy as well, but not. Now we are literally right there. Russians are now tracking all planes, all American planes and drones with their anti-air weapons. Not that they necessarily will shoot any down, but it's very scary. And the point of me just saying this tonight, but we really all collectively need to start looking at how we can not only de-escalate the situation, but what are the paths that we can take to not just peacefully come to a solution, but avoid a massive world war. As far as the Americans, I can say that we we're kind of stuck now. We don't really have that many options. The real power in this situation is the Russians and the Iranians, and so as far as that goes, it's really the Russians. The Iranians will probably back up their Syrian allies because they have to with Assad, but the Russians can right now pull support from Assad, force him to come to the table, um, and negotiate a surrender or a peace treaty with the Kurds in the north, allow the Kurds to have their own state, no matter how much it pisses off both Assad and Turkey, uh, and then negotiate to the south with rebels and allow secular rebels, whatever form they may come in, and is confusing those lines are drawn, actually respect those boundaries at this point. Focus on ISIS, which is a creation of both American and Syrian, and it's the creation of a lot of different countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. It's just they have helped fund a terrible organization, and so now at this point we need to continue to go after them, uh, and that's the only focus. But the Russians should pull their support and protect Assad what he has now, because we're not going to really get rid of Assad. Force Assad to come to the bargaining table and make sure that a ceasefire is not only called but then respected, and then maybe perhaps have some form of elections, some kind of democracy. Assad is almost never, he will never, this is one thing that will be assured of Assad. He will never be the legitimate ruler of Syria again. He has done too many atrocities. There's too many people that will never forgive him. The only way to move forward is to call a ceasefire, peacefully remove him from power on their end over a period of time, whether that's 6 months, a year, whatever, and then hold these elections and guarantee the success of them between the Russians and the Americans. Allow, excuse me, him. Now, this may not work, this may not happen, this may not help. That's just my own personal idea of what I would start to be doing, because right now we are inching closer and closer to a war with Trump, a president of the United States, where he knows he can instantly boost his own popularity, which he cares so desperately about, and turn speculation away from the Russia investigation and just his dismal domestic polls. Uh, no one really, not that many people like Trump anymore. It's not like many people ever did, but he has done a poor job communicating his message and just being a decent human being at any step before or during the presidency. And now he knows that and will use the fact that he can go to war and Democrats and liberals and Republicans and everyone will support the American flag. And I'm doing that weak ass voice because when he shot those Tomahawk cruise missiles, I think Democrats and liberals should really look at all the coverage that supported him on the liberal news networks. Uh, there is still a very large segment of the elite, not only in this country but around the world, that support the wars in the Middle East, support regime change in a very negative fashion. And right now, Trump can take advantage of that and go to war. Putin knows this. I think that's why Russia hasn't shot down any planes yet. They haven't tried. They don't want to escalate because in a conventional war, as awful it will be, Americans would still win just because there's. I don't need to have that argument right now. The Russians, though, are a very advanced, extremely well trained force. The Iranians, Hezbollah, the many militias that are there, it's a confusing, terrible place right now on the ground in Syria. And we all need to back up, look at this in a different situation, and come and put pressure on the sides that we can. The Americans, the Russians, the Iranians, the Saudis, everyone from the outside needs to push their sides to the table and actually have a legitimate peace conference, actually have legitimate talks, respect those talks, and eventually lead to a settlement of peace with Assad leading Syria, even if it has to be cloak and dagger and they do it behind his back, because he won't leave. And so maybe he won't agree to a peace conference unless he's guaranteed to stay in power. You could say that, and then all of a sudden you put in the elections, and then you force him to accept it, and then they vote him out. However, it needs to be done. We need to avoid war at all costs, or we need to go into it full bore, and that would be an awful, awful situation. So this is just my opinion. I hope everyone has a good night. I will stay safe with there, stay blessed, and the Lakers fucked up on our last trade. I was pissed off about it. Take care.